Hi, I'm Rachel Dillon, and together with my husband Marcus Dillon, we lead Who's Really the Boss podcast, where we highlight the joys and challenges of running a business with your spouse or family. Our mission is to strengthen families and businesses by helping listeners avoid the mistakes we have made so they can lead and live happily ever after. Welcome back to another episode of Who's Really the Boss podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
And we have a special guest with us, Ben Gabriel. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Rachel. Hey, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast, but even a bigger thank you to being part of the Collective by DBA team. So we get to spend a lot of time with you these days, which is super exciting for us.
It feels good. I am ready for awesome things. So feels good. I'm excited.
Nice. Well, will you give a little introduction in case any of our listeners haven't met you yet?
Well, that's going to be hard, Rachel, because I think probably everybody knows who I am. But for anybody that hasn't, the one or two people out there, my name is Ben Gabriel. I have, I guess, about 20 years in the accounting profession, but I am not an accountant. My background really started on the software and technology side, and then moved into what I would just generally call the consulting side in there. And that is, I believe, how I probably met both of you guys, although that was probably some years ago at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your family and a little bit about what keeps you busy outside of the working hours.
I have a wife, and we have a soon to be 8-year-old daughter. Her birthday's coming up here in about 3 weeks or so. And as far as I know, for the birthday party, we are going to have in the vicinity of like 17 7 to 8-year-old kids here. I believe that I am in charge of setting up a scavenger hunt that will probably be outside at this point. So, you've just reminded me that I need to give the scavenger hunt some thought because it's got to be a good scavenger hunt with good clues. Keeping me busy. I like to just be outside and everything. So I love all the seasons and the different activities for each of the seasons. We're getting towards, I guess, the very end of summer here, turning into fall, which means it starts to get a little bit cooler. I'm in Colorado here, and then ski season isn't too far away there. So I guess I'm probably looking forward to skiing, although it's several months away at this point. But yeah, Rachel.
Ben, you for those that may have not heard of you, the one or two people, you're in Boulder, which we were able to visit you this past summer and got to experience Boulder and its uniqueness and all the color that comes along with the city. But obviously, getting to see you and your family, and then kind of get a feel for what you live in a daily basis, which a lot of people would consider it, paradise with the climate and just the view of everything. So I know that you enjoy a lot of mountain biking right now, given that season, and you get to go on rides every day, right?
I would like to go every day, Marcus. I do try to get out for like a lunch ride. I call it like a lunch ride. It might
Yeah.
not always be at noon lunchtime. It might be like a 2 o'clock lunch ride or something like that. But I try to go out my door and get on my bike. I guess, back into mountain biking probably 4 years ago. Once my daughter was born, I got real busy with that, and I spent my time doing some other things, but got back into biking a few years ago and have just tried to go guns blazing back in that direction. Try to ride a lot with my brother. He's better than I am. Not ashamed to say that. He's a really good rider. So I just try to get closer and closer to him.
Yeah. Well, we were fortunate enough also this summer to go on family vacation to Colorado, and I want to ask you, the bike you ride, does it have a motor on it to where it's cheating, right? It's not what we grew up with thinking about BMX and all the really hard riding. So does your bike have a motor on it?
My motor's like right in here, Marcus. It's
Okay.
just
Yeah.
pumping in my chest.
Got it. Yeah.
I do not have an e-bike. E-bikes have become more and more and more popular over the years, and you see them a lot around town for sure and things like that. I do not have an e-bike.
Yeah. Well, that's great. No, we weren't fortunate enough to, Rachel, she likes to stay on budget when we go on family vacation. So the e-bikes you had to rent, and then there was like a, exchange of dollars for that. Or the hotel has, these bikes that have collected dust, the seats a little bit bigger, I guess, if you will, probably questionable if they'll even make it back, but those are free, right? And so that was in line with the budget for the day. And so we were, I think, the only people pedaling around on the non-motorized e-bike. And man, I can tell you, like, that thing was making some noises by the time it got back to the hotel. I think they just retired it and hopefully put it in a museum that its last ride was with me. And yeah, it's e-bikes are definitely a thing to look into.
I'll tell you the benefits of the hotel complimentary bike. We did not have to make a reservation prior. They were fully accessible and available. And they told us we could take them for however long we wanted. So they were not in high demand. So we really just, could go out and do whatever we wanted to do for as long as we wanted to do it with those bikes. It was awesome.
Or did they have like a bike counter there? And when you walked up, or they were like, "Excuse me, you want the bikes?" Were they surprised?
They weren't even chained. They weren't
No?
even chained.
Yeah.
They were just lined up in the front of the hotel for anyone to take.
Now I'm concerned that you didn't take the hotel rental bikes. You just took somebody's bikes that happened to be parked at the hotel. Who did you
Yeah.
guys talk to about this? Was it just a guy like standing there drinking a cup of coffee or something?
Yeah.
You sure you rented bikes?
Yeah, I think they were laughing more when we left than we came back. I
They
think
brought
that's
them back. Those people that
yeah,
stole those bikes just brought them back.
yeah.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Good stuff, man. Well, e-biking, we'll have to try it one day. So,
Before we get too far off track, we like to ask each of our guests, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And if it was to rent the e-bike, that's fine too. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Well, it's return your stolen e-bike, Rachel. Is that's the So the best piece of advice ever given, and I you let me know about this in advance, and I appreciate it, and I gave it some thought. So I've told this story before. I've told it publicly before a time or two, but my grandma lived to be, I think, 98, and she passed away probably 4 years ago now during COVID. But before that, I had always asked her, once I was old enough to realize that I should, that I can ask questions, she was always positive, or at least whenever she was around me. And I would ask her from time to time, like I didn't see her all the time. We lived on different areas of the country, but I'd ask her, like, what's your secret? This is coming from her grandson. Like, what's your secret? Like, you're 90 years old, you're bouncing around, you're dancing, you're smiling, whatever, And she was a normal person too, but she always had this energy, and she never would tell me. She would always kind of like look at me and like, you know, bounce away or whatever. Like, she didn't want to tell me, or maybe she wasn't ready, or maybe she didn't know. I don't know. But one time I asked her, and she said, keep on moving and don't shuffle your feet. And that's all she said. And I think that you can interpret that however you want to interpret it. And you might interpret it differently one day versus the next day. And I've thought about it a lot. And the way I interpret it, right, there's two parts to it. But keep on moving, like, maybe that literally, like don't stop. Whatever it is that you're doing in life, in business, with things, with family, don't stop. Keep on doing it. Don't stop. Don't get complacent, maybe. you know um and then don't shuffle your feet, which I interpret to mean, if you're doing it, do it. Go at it, go guns blazing at it, do your best at it. And so that's how I interpret what she said. I will always remember that. And it's probably the most meaningful piece of advice. And I've been given good advice by other people. Don't get me wrong. I have, and I cherish it. That's probably the most meaningful piece of advice I think I've ever been given.
I love that. And I love that you're not the first guest, and not even for myself, when I think about the best piece of advice that has mentioned a grandparent. And I think that that just makes me, even though we're just 42 years old now, but that makes me even more excited about becoming a grandparent, to be able to have that type of impact on another generation, or, like our family generations that come after us. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah. I think probably to couple on to what you just said, Rachel, I think there's always two grandparents, the one that gives good advice, and maybe there's the one that just gives advice, right? Like, hey, go jump off that bridge, or, like, and hopefully I've got a low bar, when it comes to our grandkids. So, yeah, that'll be good. It'll be fun times.
Well, they can't be with you unattended. Like, you have to always be supervised visitation when they come to visit you, for
Yeah.
sure.
At the end of the visit, it's like, what did Grandpa tell you guys?
Yeah.
Did he tell you guys to do anything? Just
Yeah.
let's run it by me real quick.
He just took my e-bike. I don't know what happened.
Grandpa stole another bike.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus, will you give a brief overview of how we've been working more closely with Ben recently?
Yeah. So Ben and I have a past, right? And so we worked together in previous groups, and really helped other accounting firm owners in a previous life. Ben continued doing that after a season of kind of reflection and working outdoors, something that he loved in Colorado, and had a break. And then he was able to go back and kind of do some of what we started, and continue just good growth for firms and for individuals to unpack what we all deal with on a daily basis and share with one another in a safe space. And I think those groups that Ben continued to lead, I know, speaking like for myself, when I wasn't in those anymore, I missed it. I mean, that was the highlight of, my week, my months, sometimes just a season of life, to be surrounded by peers that aren't going through the exact same thing, but are maybe going through something similar, have gone through something like you're going through in the past, or maybe even just hope to go through some of those challenges that you see as a challenge. And then it just reframes your perspective on, like, okay, this is a goal to this person, and I'm considering a challenge. So I think all of that to say, like, Ben and I used to work in that manner, helping other people see, what they're working through, really just unpack it. And I'm excited that he's on this journey, on the collective journey with us now, to help other firms moving forward. And, with what we're doing at Collective, building that out, creating that space again. Man, I am so excited. If not for anything else, that I can get a group back and have some counseling and some direction to my everyday life, because, man, I have missed it.
Yeah. So, Ben, tell us a little bit more about each of those kind of areas, and I'm gonna list three. And if there are more, then feel free to share those. But I know mastermind groups, one-on-one advisory, as well as your own podcast, have really been where your time has been focused work-wise in the most recent months.
All those are probably the three big things. Rachel, yeah. So from a group's perspective, and this is Rachel, you said it, and and Marcus, you talked a little bit about it. I've had the privilege of, being, I'll say facilitator. That's my best word for it, because I think that's most accurate. A couple of small groups, a couple of groups of 10 accounting firm owners. And I think that it is really cool to be able to just surround yourself with a group of other people that you can get to know, that you can share information with, that have maybe been through, dealt with, or dealing with, or just know what your experience is like on a regular basis. And then if you're inside of a group of those folks, just having that safe space to share and share what's going well, which is awesome. There's always good things happening. And then share what those challenges are. Has anyone else dealt with this? What do other people think about these things? It just feels good to have that space. And that space is really a group of people that can come together on a regular basis and be there for you. And every person's different. Shocker. Every firm's different. Another shocker. But people have a lot of the same challenges, and they're listening in. Hey, here's my challenge. What's your challenge? And being a part of that it's a privilege, and it's also a lot of fun to see people come together and ultimately help each other. I think that's the most fun part of it. The group, certainly the group part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. When you and I used to lead these groups years ago, it feels like now, we used to start them off with a success and a challenge. And I don't know if you still do that. I used to love that as part of the room of peers, right? Because as like a technically trained auditor, I was taught to find the flaw, right? In the financial situation, or maybe that's carried on through like find the flaw in my life on a daily basis. So when we would ask that question, a challenge and a success, man, for myself, for others in the room that probably have that same kind of background, we could list off so many challenges, right? Like the world is against us. This is not balancing, if you will, like the debits and the credits of life. And so it just seemed off to us. The highlight was, even if you didn't talk about a success the rest of the month, you were forced to bring a success and trying to change that perspective that maybe you had and celebrate a win of some type. So I know looking back, that was a highlight, and it started off every meeting for me. And was there anything else that stood out to you, or maybe it's some of that same thing whenever you're leading these groups, just the goodness that kind of came out of it?
We did, I think we spent time doing just whatever we call the goals check-in 1 month, Marcus. And when you really sit down, and goals check-in wasn't just, these are my future goals and where I am. That's what we called it. But it was a reflection time. Hey, since the last time I thought about this, or maybe since the last time I talked about this publicly, whenever that was, maybe it was 6 months ago, maybe it was ago, maybe it was 1 week ago, I don't know. These are the things that we've worked on, and it's impressive to sit and say, look, we did these things and we made this kind of progress. And just hearing those things and taking the time to talk about them, I think is good. I don't know that you're necessarily unique when you're like, and I mean this like positively, like I can think of all my challenges. Totally, man. Like when you're driven and you have goals and desires and things out in front of you, that's what I'm thinking about. I think it's a really good and smart thing periodically to be like, okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just take a little breather here. Look how far I've come, or look at the things that I've knocked out. And we're probably not going to live back there, because we're looking this way, and I'm pointing forward, everybody. You can see me, right? I'm looking forward, but it is good to just take stock of those successes and those accomplishments and celebrate them. And I also like to think, celebrate them with the people that were a part of that journey with you. What maybe you did it yourself, but maybe in a lot of cases there was some other folks that helped. So make sure to celebrate those things and take the time to think about those successes.
That's great. I think just the self-development kind of chapter of life that we've been in and we are in. We listen to a lot, we read a lot, and I know there's a place for gratitude journals and things like that. And I think Rachel does a really good job of reflection on what is maybe going well and kind of being able to build up. I was listening to another podcast. It wasn't your podcast, unfortunately, Ben, this week, but another podcast was saying, when you have a loss, you can mourn the loss, you can kind of beat yourself up for a day and then move forward. And then the same thing, whenever you have a win, celebrate for a day and then move forward. And so I think that's the piece. Like in my life, I know that whenever wins come, and Rachel can attest to this, like the win comes, I'm real quick to like, okay, what's the next win? And what's next on that list, going down of being just driven and kind of goal oriented and not celebrating properly. And then when there is the loss, that loss creeps over into the next day, and then it creeps over into the whole week or the next week or the whole month. So I know I'm not alone in that. And I think, Rachel, you have some great tips on just how to, reframe perspective, if you will.
Yeah. I don't know if I have great tips on reframing perspective, but I do know that the weight or the value that we give to the win needs to match the weight and the value that we give to the loss. So if we're going to, stew over the loss for days or weeks or months, we should be doing that same thing in the opposite direction. We're going to celebrate those wins for days and weeks and months, and that they should really be more in balance rather than one being so potentially detrimental to your progress or your mental health in that respect. I know that within our small groups within Collective, they're called forums. And I know that these goal check ins, like Ben mentioned, are really helpful in the fact that they're not just spoken out loud, they're actually recorded and documented. And they're posted for the whole group to see. So for those 10 members of that small group, they're posted out there. One, so you don't have to remember exactly what you shared at the last one just by your own memory. And two, by those being documented, what I love is that all the members can refer back to that. So if they're thinking of trying something, for example, they're implementing that same software or they're implementing like team of three structure, then they can go back and say, oh yeah, somebody was talking about that in our last group, that was a success that they were having from their implementation of that structure or that strategy that they were doing in their firm. So I love that not only is it for the individual, but then also for the whole group gains benefit from having that documented and saved in a place where it can be referenced back.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see what other people are doing. It's fun to talk about what you're doing. It's fun to get input from people. It's fun to know that maybe someone else has already done something that you're thinking about. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I'm not sure. And then you can see that someone else has already done it, and you may still make a different decision. Because everybody's different and every business is different. But now you can be like, hey, I know that you did this. How did it go? Of course, I'm always asking, any advice here? I'm thinking about doing this. Any advice? The first question I'm asking, right? And it could be good advice, like definitely do this. It could be like negative advice, like don't do this. And you're like, awesome. Like that's awesome.
I'll speak from us like just in the small groups, Marcus, as you helped facilitate them, as you've been members of them, as a spouse of yours, I think it's helpful for you to have that place as well to be able to talk through some things that maybe I can't hear one more time as the spouse, and or that our team is not ready to hear yet. So maybe these are ideas or struggles, and you don't, maybe in that group I know is where you are able to come up with some language to kind of reframe and think through and talk out these ideas that maybe I was done listening to that as your spouse, and maybe that the team wasn't quite ready to hear the messiness of the idea and it needed to be put together a little bit. So I know just being kind of playing a different role in your life, like what those groups mean as someone who's not even in the mastermind group, that it's beneficial both to not just the individual end, but also to the family and to the team that's related to that person in the group.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are, between the people that have worked with me and Ben over the years, and I'm sure there are much better people to bring in and talk about maybe the change that they had in their lives or their firms. But for me being here today, I will say yes, like that space and having peers alongside you safe, and you can throw crazy ideas out that would get you kicked out of the room, so to speak, depending on who's in that room, if it was a spouse or a leadership team or even a whole team. Because I think you, like, the crazy that is in your mind, you just have to kind of get it out there with other people that also are fighting the same battles of like, hey, this is what we're dealing with as an industry or as owners right now. And these are the choices that we have, and these are the challenges that we're going to have to navigate. So doing that together was always super helpful for me. And then, like you said, being able to refine and unpack and be able to more clearly define or even say what the true goal was better after kind of going to a group and sharing it with peers. And I just look back at that time of whenever, just that chapter of when I led groups alongside Ben, and then even after Ben, and it's just some of my best memories professionally are in those groups. Whenever we just had fun, and you challenge your fellow, owner to do things, or fellow leader, and you always back it up with like, hey, this is my experience. This is what I've witnessed over my career. Here's a resource, here's a podcast, here's a book to go listen to, just to like, hey, this helped me get through where you're at. And then sometimes it's just like, you need to go fire that person like today, like I challenge you to fire them. And it's just hearing it in a different way actually may motivate someone to move forward with the decision they may know that they need to make, but they lack the confidence to do it without the support of peers or accountability of peers.
Yeah, yes, Marcus. I think we all benefit from other people around us that care about us and will listen to us. And a lot of times that might just be what we need. I need someone to listen to me that I know cares about me.
Yeah.
And an added benefit of that, maybe this person knows what I'm dealing with. And I already may know the decision that I need to make, or the way that I need to go, or the thing that I want to do. But just being able to talk it through one more time, even with a person that you trust, and then might, take it out of a professional environment, make it into a personal environment too. It's amazing what that can be.
Yeah. I think, speaking for myself and others that have been in these rooms and these groups over the years, after you get a little bit success and you get a little bit of weight around you, it's a little bit harder to make some of those decisions, right? Because the weight of the decision could have changed versus when you were just starting out and you were more nimble and you could move a little bit faster. I think back, going back to like the bike analogy and riding bikes as a kid, you're like, the ramps eventually get bigger and bigger. And, it's like, hey, you can make that jump. You always had that friend whenever you think back in life, like, hey, you can make that jump. And nowadays it's like, not only can you make that jump, but I'm going to film you as you're making that jump. And if you fall, like, I'll call the ambulance, right? Like, hey, we're going to get through it together. And how beautiful is that relationship? Because you push the limits of like, what you wouldn't do by yourself. Hopefully you're not just going out there crazy by yourself, jumping things, but especially in your 40s. So I think those are the pieces that my peers have helped me get through and really expand my what I thought were limitations, but just be a better version of myself, make the firm better, and push me to do things that I wasn't comfortable doing alone.
Yeah, watching people that may be better than you, that's a way to get better. And you can also be helping the people that maybe they feel that you're better than they are. That's how people get better. People, you're pushed. Maybe you push yourself, you're pushed internally, but also other people are pushing you at the same time.
I think, as adults, it's like the average, right? You're the average of the room that you hang out with, right? So if you're in a room full of great people, like, you're getting brought up. And I've publicly said it. I just want to be the dumbest guy in the room, right? Because if I surround myself with smart people, hopefully they'll keep me out of the emergency room, but that's what I've gotten out of these groups over the years.
Yeah, Ben, let me put you on the hot seat. What have been some of the
either recent challenges or most common challenges that tend to come up in the accounting firm small groups?
Well, just one thing recently, Rachel, that was top of mind was planning capacity and just having that conversation around how do you determine capacity? How do you know where you are in capacity? Things like that. That was a recent discussion that we had, and a really good discussion. And I'd love for you guys to weigh in here. I don't know if there's a silver bullet, but it's a real top of mind thing that I think people are thinking about and working through.
Yeah, I have a real easy answer for that. It's all about firm strategy, structure, and systems. That is the silver bullet, is really refining those three pillars that happen to be the same three pillars collected by DBA. But honestly, Ben, you and I have visited on this topic before, and that's not a unique challenge to just one person from one group. That is a challenge that all of us as accounting firm owners are working through daily. So every year that becomes a point of discussion, and every year that actually becomes part of our goals at Dillon Business Advisors, because that is always a challenge that we are looking to continue to improve. So maybe at one time it was a real challenge, and the hours were very long and 6 to 7 days a week, and we were always looking for where are we going to find that next person to hire, to where we are today, where it's continuing to improve efficiency and provide more value out to the client, but also that our team can find some satisfaction in their day as well, and fulfillment with their role in accounting. And so, yeah, Marcus, you can definitely expand on that, some
Yeah.
more specifics, but that's the quick and dirty answer right there, is strategy, structure, and systems for sure.
Well, and like, so you hit it on the head. And I think each of that, to take it a little bit further, it's a personal choice. So capacity, you start with how much are you willing to give, right? And we do that with team members whenever we hire new team members, and maybe someone only wants to work 24 hours a week. So if we were to take that 24-hour a week person, who that's their capacity, right? Like that's the hours in the day, how much can they get done? And put them into a role that is a 40-hour work role, it's misalignment. And so I think everyone has to answer the question whenever you look at strategy, structures, systems. You also have to make the personal decision of what do you want your life to look like, right? And I know that's kind of the art form that you're weaving in, and maybe even stage of life, and what you're willing to put into this business or this role at this chapter. But if you start there and then you build it from there, it's kind of reverse engineering, even like the profit to, if you start with the profit and then you build the firm to a certain revenue amount, and then you take that revenue and divide it by how many clients you want to serve and get to the average price per client, like that's another way to look at it. And I think the capacity conversation starts with personal preference. And we have firm owners and leaders that we work with that only want to work, like success to them is 15 hours a week. And then we have some people, success is 55 hours a week. And I think it also goes to how you're wired, like the DNA inside of you. What do you enjoy? And we see a lot right now with burnout, right? Related to like tax season and all that fun stuff. And burnout is the misalignment of work and your passions in life. So like if your work is tax returns, but if you hate tax, it doesn't matter if you're working 15 hours a week or 55 hours a week or 80 hours a week, you're going to feel that burnout, and it's going to feel like work or pain. But if you love the puzzle of a tax return and you just like that's your hobby, so to speak, you could easily have capacity more than the next guy, right? And so I think those are some of the things that you have to unpack that are individual situations. And once you know, like, hey, I can handle 15 hours, 40 hours, 60 hours a week, then we can go build it like around you to make sure that you're good. And once you start going outside of that capacity in an accounting firm and knowledge work, you just work more, right? Like you just you just put one extra hour in and that begins to snowball. So you have to put up some hard boundaries, and hopefully you have people around you that can hold you accountable, whether it's family or spouse, loved one. And then maybe it's like this group, right? Like of peers that are just asking how you are and they care about you. So that's the capacity. Like it's not perfect, it's individualized, and it's not a formula, so to speak. But once you have figured it out, then you can start building it. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a living, flowing document. And as you see things tick up, the time tick up or the stress tick up, what are your outlets? What levers can you pull? Whether it's hiring internally or outsource, technologies, something of that. And that goes to Rachel's point, like structure, strategy, and systems. Like those are just the different levers you can pull once you've figured out, like, here's the formula. Here's what I want it to look like at the end of the day.
What would you say? I'm gonna reverse it for you. We talked about like this is what I want and this and we can go build it. What about for those firms like ours who built it really big and way over capacity for anything that we wanted to maintain and to grow for the future? How do you go backwards to get that capacity in check?
First, you have to define what you want, So I think it was easier for us to build it and then realize that wasn't what we intended to build. And that wasn't the life that we wanted to continue living, versus some people are just like, hey, I'm just going to start. I don't know what it could look like. Right. So I think with our experience, with like the maturity that we had to go through in that season, to just be realistic and say like, this isn't what we wanted, and then start from there. Like, I know what I don't like, so I'm going to start removing the pieces that I don't like first. And that's in a simple way, that's just what we did, right? And whether it's delegation of tasks that are something that falls on your plate on a daily basis, there's options, right? So if you don't like checking your email and you get stressed out about your email, go get a virtual assistant that does that for you. Like, it's just, there's solutions to all of this, but you have to, like Ben's advice, you have to keep moving forward. You can't shuffle, right? You have to keep going. And once you get stuck, like that's whenever life starts to feel really heavy. Did I answer the question, or did I dance around it too
Yes, you
much?
did. No, I
Okay.
think you answered it. I think
Yeah.
you answered it perfectly in that you have to, sometimes it's easier to start looking at the things that you don't like and that you don't want and start removing those things. And whether that's exiting non-ideal clients, exiting non-ideal services, or just delegating tasks that are on your responsibility as the owner or the leader. I think that, like you said, there are different levers to pull. There are different options that you have available. And a lot of times it is easier, depending on how you're wired, to think about one, the things that you don't want or don't like, but two, to talk through that with someone else, to not try to keep it all internal, thinking through it, pulling it, like mulling it over in your mind, but actually to say things out loud, because you just get a different perspective and clarity on things whenever you're able to say them out loud and hear them as you're thinking about them.
Yeah. So we've kind of gone the journey of like, hey, we could do this yourself based on everything that you know to be true. That's one way to do it. You could join a group of peers, a forum, do it together with other people, bouncing ideas off of one another and using that collective knowledge to go do whatever your goals are. That next step, the deepest level, is advisory. So that's one-on-one, and that's where you're really working with a trainer, a coach, whatever the analogy is that you want to use, right? And so I know, Ben, you probably have some value to add to that conversation, because advisory is that deepest touch point, one-on-one with folks. And I think that's whenever you see really good growth, but it has to be in the right context. It can't just be, I'm doing this because somebody else told me to do it.
Yeah, Marcus, it certainly starts with what is it that you are looking to accomplish? Where is it that you're trying to go? And those could be short-term things, long-term things. I don't know where the divider is between short-term and long-term, but some things are going to happen more immediately that you want to work through, and some things are out there a little bit further. But setting your sights on what it is that you want to accomplish, you're then wanting to commit to those things, and then bringing someone alongside you that is going to help you and ultimately hold you accountable to working in that direction. I think that accountability is something that, whether we know it or not, and I'll speak for myself, like you kind of crave a little bit in a way. And you might look back on some of your best or most memorable accomplishments and say, "Man, I am so glad that so and so was here." And they didn't do it for me, but he or she helped me along the way, kept me motivated, kept me honest, so to speak. And look where I am now today versus where I thought maybe I was going to be. And chances are you're a little bit further along. So just that accountability element to, moving forward and achieving those goals, both the short term ones and the longer term ones, I think it can be invaluable.
Well, let's go again. I think the conversation was really good. I think there was a lot of value that both of you guys added from just that common challenge of capacity. Ben, is there another topic that seemed to come up either more frequently or just from more of the members of the small group?
I'm just thinking through other things, Rachel, maybe not necessarily exactly from some small group meetings, but thinking about things like product, the right types of product bundles, what do your products look like? What does your pricing look like for those products? That's a conversation. Just the regular cadence of meeting with your team and meeting with your people, for those that have team members and staff, what does that look like? What are you doing on a, let's say, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, semi-annual basis with your team members, with your group of people at your firm? What are some of those things that you're doing? What are you talking about? What's being solved and when, and things like that. So I think those are a couple more, things that have come up in recently.
One of those are super relevant to the a webinar that we just recently did on building and pricing advisory services. So we don't have to. We could skip that one in this conversation and go to kind of the frequency and rhythm of team interaction and team communication, because anybody who's listening to this could go check out that webinar on the Dillon Business Advisors YouTube on pricing, building and pricing advisory services.
Yeah. I think a lot of that been like what I heard was just improvement, right? Growth. And I think defining growth for that firm owner or that firm, they're improving, right? And I think that's what most of the people that are looking for that have raised their hand, so to speak, and joined the groups, or even deeper at an advisory level. They want something better than where they're at or what they've had in the past. And I think a lot of times when I was leading groups, so many people were focused on top line growth, like revenue, and how can I get this to a certain level. I've been guilty of it myself. But you have to have people that provide perspective, that don't just celebrate the vanity metrics, but they also look at just the overall health of the business, the bottom line, or the health of the leadership team, the health of the owners, the health of the whole team, right? Like, are you going through a lot of team members to get to that revenue mark and that goal? And is that the life that you want? So I love the fact that these groups add that perspective of, it's just a safe space to where it's, hey, you can just bring me one challenge, right? Don't bring me all the challenges that you see. and then let's talk through that and how other people have navigated those same waters, if they have, and if not, we'll slap you on the back and you'll be the spearhead, and then we're going to learn from you as you navigate that.
I like to think of things as just taking just one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, making progress. I think that's what it's all about. I have raised my hand, Marcus, let's say, and I want to get better. I'm ready. Can you help me? Because I'm ready. I want to get better. And my better may be different than your better. I think it's good to know what others are doing. Absolutely. That's super helpful. Ultimately, where might I measure myself on a regular basis is just against me. How was I
Yeah.
doing yesterday? How was I doing last year? If I'm better, then I feel good and I'm making progress.
Yeah. I think
I
the
love
other
that.
thing we saw with, just the COVID season when we were all sent home, right? I know that a lot of us sought out things like this, groups, because it got really lonely, and ownership, leadership, it's lonely to begin with, right? Because there's certain things that if you repeat them outside the room, like to our earlier point, like it may scare people into going and finding a new career or finding a new relationship, right? If it's too scary, but you need to just unpack that. And I know that during that season of just loneliness, everybody needs something. So whether it's this or whether you have it in another space, another area of your life, just highly recommend get in a room with others that are encouraging you, lifting you up, bringing your average higher, and then hopefully you're doing that for others as well, whether it's in that same room or you're going to a different room to maybe kind of lift people up to where you've been. So I think the whole premise behind what we're doing within forums, I believe in it. I mean, obviously that's why it's a part of our DNA at Collective. And I've seen so much good fruit. I know Rachel's seen a lot of fruit from me being in groups, from her being in different groups, and then probably you could say the same, Ben, just the different circles you've been in over your career.
I think people really appreciate that community element, surrounding themselves with others who are of like mind, have similar goals, and certainly run similar businesses. There's just a lot to be said for those kind of communities, I think. Helping each other.
Yeah. Ben, tell me, because I asked this, I'll give you some context of why I'm asking. But at my core, I'm an introvert and I'm also a little bit stubborn. So in these groups, when people are sharing challenges, successes, how does it end? Like, what is in that group? What is the response, or how does the meeting time together end? Because I know, and I just will keep talking, but for me, I get a little bit nervous to share things that are personal to me or that carry a lot of value for me, because I'm sometimes afraid that I don't want everyone to solve my problem as soon as I'm saying it. And so, what does that kind of look like as far as when someone shares something that might feel intimate to them? What does a normal response look like, or how does the meeting wrap up after everyone has shared all of these types of things?
I'm typically trying to let everybody know, hey, we're meeting again, right? Because this is an ongoing thing. So, I mean, honestly, Rachel, literally, it's, probably, hey, our next meeting is coming up, and people are probably not thinking about that in the moment at all. We'll be talking to each other again. This is an ongoing thing. It's not a one-time thing, if I'm making sense. And while I would, I would always love others' feedback and to hear if someone is like, yes, I dealt with that. Here's what I did. I definitely want to know that. Other times it may just be like letting people know that I'm working on it and just kind of, I'm, just putting it out there, and maybe there isn't a solution, Rachel. Maybe there's not a solution in that moment. Because there just not isn't necessarily always a solution. But I know that we may be talking again.
Yeah. I think to add to what Ben shared, my response to you, Rachel, if you shared something intimate, in that setting, would be just like, hey, thank you. Thank you that you felt comfortable enough here to like share that with us. Like that's a huge growth moment for some people, right? Because they don't share outside their mind. Within those groups, as accountants, we're like sharing the most intimate details, which are our financials. So I think that's the other piece. Like they know my numbers. I'm in the hot seat. I have to explain why I'm spending 12 to 15% a year on technology costs for subscriptions I don't really use. Right. So I think those are some of the intimate pieces that we as accountants think about. Others would think like other, more scandalous stuff as intimate, but we're like looking at numbers as like our intimacy. So, and then the last piece, like to Ben's point, yeah, it's just a once a month touch point as a group, as accountable. But within the collective community, you also have your chat with your group that is just your group. So you can continue the conversation after that meeting. You can also post in there throughout the month. You can also direct message one another within the community just to check on one another, just to say, hey, you said something. Can I learn more about that? Can I jump on your calendar? And so that's the full circle of support that we wanted for these forums within collective. And there are great places to go outside of collective. And for us, it was just, what's the differentiator? Why would you want to do this with inside collective? And it just goes back to the team that's present between Rachel, me, Ben, Christine, Amy, and the DBA team, right? That are all there as support. But then that the whole team for that forum member is in there as well. So they may be getting something from the overall community, but as a forum member, you're not just hanging up, waiting till the next month comes back up. Like there is a continued conversation that could happen. And a lot of times it does happen because those meetings do go by so fast.
Yeah, it is awesome to be able to stay in touch with people continually if something comes up, because things yeah, I may not really want to wait for that next in-person meeting, right, Marcus? Like I might
Yeah.
I really would love to talk to somebody right now, and
Yeah.
having a group of people that you're tight with that you can reach out to. I think that feels really good.
All right, I think the last part that we need to share is how do people connect? How do people find their group? So, Ben, will you share a little bit about how would someone, if this sounds great, they need this place of other accounting firm owners and leaders, just to be able to talk through the successes and challenges of their firm. How can they find that with you and with Collective by DBA?
Well, I think just the first thing is reach out to us so we can talk to you and get an idea of, if you're interested in being part of a group. That's definitely step number one. And then step number two certainly is we need to make sure that we can get folks into groups. Key thing about group, more than one. So we need to have multiple folks together. And then once we have group or groups formed, Rachel, then it's just a matter of, certainly like Marcus talked about, we have our platform and discussion and things like that. But we also want to make sure that we get our group meetings on our calendar, that we can just prioritize and hopefully set aside that time every month. But it comes down to, let's get into a group, let's get formed up, and then we can kind of hit the ground running and start to get things on the calendar.
Nice. All right. So to reach out to us, collective.cpa is how you can find more information about collective community and forums, and also schedule time for sure on my calendar, or just fill out an information form and we'd be happy to contact you back. All right. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being a guest. Thank you for sharing what you've been up to most recently and how you've been supporting accounting firm owners. And Marcus, thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for hanging with us to the end of another episode. Leave us a review with your thoughts, comments, and feedback on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Join us again next week for another great conversation.